Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Do you do stuff like this with your Gladiator? Hook up to a trailer, maybe do some off-roading, overlanding, or even just do your normal everyday towing, or a little bit of both? If the answer is yes, then check this out. This is a trailer brake controller made by Redarc, and it is the Tow Pro Trail. Really good setup, and we're going to be showing you how to install it on a 2023 Jeep Gladiator. This is what our controller looks like set up in our vehicle here. And probably my favorite part about all the Redarc controllers, for that matter, is how they look. You know, it's almost like a factory type option, given that you can only see this knob here. That's the only thing you're going to be able to see. The rest of the controller is going to live up underneath the dash on your vehicle. And so you're not going to have to deal with some of the more bulky traditional type controllers. You know, there's nothing wrong with these by any means, but you know, a lot of these vehicles now are more compact and don't have a ton of space, and so having something a little bit bulkier mounted up might be in your way and kind of be an eyesore. So one of the main differences with this one is that off-road feature, off-road mode. So it gives you complete control. So you can change between that and everyday mode like we're in now. So in everyday mode, the light will be blue. And we'll go over a little bit more what that means in a moment here. But whenever you find yourself going off-road or you're wanting complete control or full user control, you can change that mode. So you want to rotate the knob all the way counterclockwise. And I'll put our vehicle, turn it on here. And you want to push down on the brake. Push the knob twice quickly, let go of the brake. You can see it turned green, and now we know that we are in that off-road mode. Whenever this is in the off-road mode, how the brake controller is going to work is it's going to send power to the trailer's brakes, you know, at the same rate, regardless on how hard you're pushing the brake pedal down in your vehicle. So if you're barely on the brake, it'll send that same power, what you have it set at, you know, over a given time there to the trailer. Or if you're all the way to the floor on the brakes, it's going to do the same thing. And so that can really be beneficial when you're going off-roading over rough terrain, slick terrain. You know, it gives you better control, right? You can really dial it in, make a small adjustment by turning the knob to figure out what your setup likes in that particular scenario. I went ahead, put it back in everyday mode just by doing what we did to put it into off-road mode. You know, turning the knob, pushing the brake, hitting the button twice and letting off the brake. And so it went back to blue. Now, when it's in this everyday mode, you know, the title kind of says it all, right? This is just for your normal towing, maybe when you're on the roads, highways and stuff, and heading to go off-roading or go overlanding, whatever you're doing. This is ideally what you'd want to have it set at, or at least a lot of people. And I say that because this more or less acts as like a proportional type controller from this point, meaning however hard you hit the brakes in your vehicle, the trailer is going to respond the same way. So like we talked about earlier, you know, if you're halfway on the brake, trailer is going to respond in a similar manner. If you're all the way on the brake, trailer is going to more or less replicate that. And so like this on normal roads, it just makes for a more complete and predictable stop. With that said, this controller is really capable with a lot of different setups, meaning it'll work with pretty much anything you got, right? So it's compatible with electric trailer brakes, electric over hydraulic, and it's good for trailers that have 1 to 3 axles. The knob also lets you control brake force. So you can turn it all the way up to 10 or all the way down to 0. And 0, you won't have any braking output, right? And this is more or less just to kind of suit your needs for whatever you're towing on your trailer, right? So, you know, a good place to start is usually about halfway. If you come to find out maybe your trailer is empty, you don't need a whole lot of extra braking force, right? You can dial that down a little bit. But then once you get it all loaded up and come to realize you could use a little bit of extra force, you can ramp that up to a higher number. And you're able to do that in both modes, both normal everyday use as well as the off-road mode. And you can also apply just the trailer's brakes, right? So to help with sway and things like that. Now, a lot of people refer to this as a manual override, but what you would do, if you push down on the button, you can see the light changing from that blue, meaning no power, to that purple to red, meaning you got braking power going on. And that's just going to apply just the trailer's brakes. If you do find yourself in a sway situation where the trailer's kind of starting to get away from you, you can hit that and slow the trailer down, get things back under control. Something pretty neat is built into this controller is what's known as a park brake feature. So let's say if you're at a red light or something and you're stationary, right? You're on the brake. If you're not moving for a few seconds, the controller will apply the trailer's brakes in an intelligent manner to figure out what it needs to do to keep your vehicle stationary, right? So if you're on flat level ground, you're on the brakes, probably don't need a whole lot of extra force on the trailer's brakes to prevent you from rolling, right? And it might ramp the power down some or vice versa, depending on the situation. So, you know, it's pretty cool that that's like that because, you know, it just helps prevent unnecessary wear and tear on your trailer's brakes. The brake controller is going to come with some installation extras, if you will. So they give you a mounting bracket, which we used and was actually really handy, worked out exceptionally well on our Jeep. And they give you a couple of, you know, mounting fixtures too if you want to put the knob in one of these. You don't have to use them. We didn't. We chose to mount ours down there, but that's entirely up to you. And this one, you also get the custom fit adapter plug. So it makes the install side of things really easy, being that you just plug into the tow package plug there, mount everything up, and that's really all there is to it. Now, with that said, every single one of these Jeeps aren't going to have that tow package plug, at least from my experience. A lot of them do, some don't. So let's go over a couple things and help you figure out how your Jeep is set up. That way you can get the right parts that you need the first time. The very first thing that you'd want to look for is come to the back of your Jeep and see if you have a factory 7-way trailer connector like this one here. If you see that, things are looking really good. From there, you would just want to go in underneath the dash on the driver's side and look up there, see if you can't identify and find that tow package connector plug. If you come to realize that your Jeep is equipped with the tow package plug and everything, great. Really nothing extra that you'll need to pick up. However, if you come to find out that you don't have these factory components on your vehicle already, you can still get this job done, just a few extra things that you'll need to pick up. One of them is a 4-way flat trailer connector to kind of build off of, and then the etrailer.com universal brake controller install kit, and then a custom fit stoplight switch. Roadmaster makes one, and those would be all the parts that you need to actually get this set up. And in that scenario, you won't be using the custom plug, right? You'd be using the universal one that comes with the controller. Other than that though, at the end of the day, a really nice setup, extremely versatile trailer brake controller, and I think it looks awesome in the Jeep. You know, it's an excellent fit. And with the tow package already being set up and everything on ours, install was really easy. Locate the plug that in, mount up the controller, figure out where you want to put the knob, and that's really all there is to it. So shouldn't really give you too many issues. With that said though, if this is something you don't even want to mess with, you can always use our dealer locator app, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can set up something like this for you. But if you're going to give it a go yourself, hang around, we'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here in the front seat of our Gladiator, and we're going to be working underneath the dash. That way we can locate the factory connector plug for our adapter here. To give us some more visibility, this panel can be popped off, and you can just do it by hand. There's just a couple of plastic clips holding it in. So just carefully start to work it off here. And then we can just set this to the side. Here's the connector plug that you're looking for. I did put a piece of gray tape around it just to help you identify it. With that said, it's usually right up here in this location, kind of tucked up. A lot of times the factory will have it taped, which ours was, and just pull that tape off, pull it down, and give you a little bit more room to work. With the factory plug located, now we can take our adapter and plug that in. So on one end of it, it'll match up with that factory connection. And given the amount of space that we have under there, I'll go ahead, plug this into it, and show you what it looks like. Here's how it looks once it's plugged in, and it only plugs in one way, so you can't really do it backwards or anything. If it's fighting you and not wanting to connect, try to rotate the connector and get everything hooked up. At this point, we can find a spot to mount up our controller. So I've picked out an area underneath the dash. I think that'll work out well. And so I've taken this mounting bracket, and what we'll do is just attach it to our bracket. They give you some hardware, just a little screw there, and on the back side you can take one of the flange nuts, get that started. I'll probably leave both of these somewhat loose for the time being. That way you can still kind of, maneuver the controller how you want to find the best spot. So what I'll do, under the dash being so tight, I'll get this thing mounted up and go from there. This is where I think we're going to mount this up, but after kind of eyeballing it, if we end up drilling a little hole through here and using the nut and bolt to secure this down, it'll be really hard to get our connectors plugged into the controller. So prior to actually, securing this completely, I think it would make more sense to take our plugs, get them hooked up beforehand. On one end of the controller, you can take the adapter plug that right on in, and then the other side, you'll have this small connector here, and the wire harness that they give you, one end will match up with those plugs there, and you'll just go ahead and push that right into place. Whenever you're getting ready to drill a hole to mount up your bracket to this piece of metal, if you're setting it up like we are today, be careful on what's going on behind that bracket. You don't want to drill in any wires or anything of importance, So one thing I'm going to do, I have a little piece of metal here I'm just going to put behind that, just kind of as a stopper. But a piece of wood or something will work the same way. Now that we have our hole drilled, we can take the nut and bolt that come with our mounting bracket there. And I did put just a little bend in that bracket to help kind of pull it away a little bit. We'll just feed this stuff through and get it completely tightened down. With that all mounted up and everything, we need to find a spot to mount up our switch or the control knob. Really not a whole lot of limitations as long as it'll fit. You got enough space behind a panel or something for these parts to fit through. And as long as your cable reaches the back of the plug there, then you'll be in good shape. So I got a few ideas in mind. We'll check them out and kind of go from there. After looking around, I think we're going to mount our switch up on our panel, kind of here towards the bottom. On the back side of it, it's nice and open. Under the dash, it's open. And I think that'll be our best bet. In the past, I have been able to mount the knobs in the center console here, in this area, or even off to the side. It kind of just depends. You have to take apart and see what's going on under there. I popped this one free. You can just use a trim tool and kind of pop all the clips upward and take a look what's going on. On our particular model, it is super tight. There's a lot going on in here. So I didn't want to risk drilling a hole just to come to find out our knob didn't actually fit in there. But that's totally up to you and your call. Yours might be set up different, more open in there. So that's what we're gonna do now, is focus on getting it mounted up to our dash panel. On our panel, I put some tape down, made a little mark where we wanna mount up our knob. And I'm gonna start with a smaller drill bit just to kind of make a pilot hole here. And I'll change it out to the final size. Could take our switch now and from the back out like this, get it lined up, and then you can take the nut and get that started, and be really careful with these. They are easy to cross thread, so make sure it's in there straight and everything. Start running that down, and then just I have a 12mm socket, and I just do this by hand because you don't have to tighten these up very much at all. Just make sure it's snug, and then you can take the actual button. What you want to do, this part, rotate it as much as you can counterclockwise. And the button, you want to make sure to push us on with the 0 in that upright position. Now you want to come back over to your Jeep, and you can take the last remaining connector. That'll plug directly into the control knob. We'll pop our panel back into place and get our wiring cleaned up. With everything hooked up, we can make sure that our controller is getting power and everything like that. So I just plugged into a test box that is simulating a trailer. You can use your trailer, but keep in mind if your trailer has any issues with it, it might mislead you, thinking it's something you did wrong on the vehicle side. But with that said, let's check it out. With that plugged in, we can look at our knob and we see it's flashing green and blue. So we know it's getting power and everything, but what the flashing green and blue means is that the unit needs to be calibrated. So really nothing to it when you're calibrating it. What you do, you can be hooked up to a trailer. You don't have to be either way. I find if you're hooked up to something, it's easier to figure out if you're calibrated or not because you'll actually have lights going. When you're not hooked up, you won't have any lights going, right? So what you do to calibrate it is just drive normal, get up to speed, hit the brakes like normal, come to a complete stop. And usually they calibrate pretty fast from my experience, but might take you 10, 20 stops. And what will happen is once it's completely calibrated and confident of the direction to travel, that light will go to a solid blue color. After driving around, making a couple stops, we got our controller to calibrate. As you can see by that solid blue color, so you know we're in good shape. And with all that done, that'll do it for our look at and our installation of the Redarc Trailer Brake Controller on our 2023 Jeep Gladiator.